The House of Representatives yesterday passed for second reading a bill to amend the 2022 Electoral Act by making electronic transmission of results mandatory. The amendment is also a bid to minimize fraud in the nation's electoral process. Titled A Bill for an Act to Amend the Electoral Act 2022 and for related matters, the proposed legislation is sponsored by a member representing Ughelli North, Ughelli South, and Udu Federal Constituency of Delta States, Honorable Francis Wive. Debating the general principles of the bill, Wive lamented the gaps in the Electoral Pro Act 2022, noting that an amendment of the law to pave way for the electronic transmission of results will help the nation's democracy. He also argued that a review of the voters' registration every 10 years will be a good starting point. The proposed legislation seeks to amend Section 10 of the Principal Act by providing for a new subsection 31 that states that without prejudice to the provision of these sections and subsections 2, every 10 years the Commission, that is INEC, should carry out a registration of all eligible voters in preparation for the next general election. But the big question and the big story for today is, will such an amendment help to return the people's trust to the electoral process, and will this finally allow for the right persons to be duly elected by the people? Well, a look at this and more as it concerns or seek for a more acceptable and secure electoral process is what this edition of The Big Story is all about. We're talking about electoral reforms amending the 2022 Electoral Act is taking center stage, not just in the House of Representatives yesterday, but taking a major and center stage on The Big Story for today. But to truly help us talk about this, I have no other person, but someone that's, well, anyway, is a legal practitioner and someone that deals with electoral laws. And I'm talking of no other person but Barrister Emmanuel Erire. Good morning and welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning, my brother. Thank you very much.
Well, anyway, let's just go straight to the bill, because I was a bit excited when I looked at all the provisions or the proposed provisions in that new Electoral Act or bill being sponsored by our very own. I was talking about Honorable Francis Wive yesterday. He said a lot he is proposing. But anyway, it's one thing to propose, one thing to see if it will even scale through. Now anyway, second reading is a scale through. We're excited about that. But let's look at it in all totality. Now, the bill seeks to amend selected sections of the current Electoral Act to provide for, number one, the re-registration of voters, same-day elections, electronic transmission of results, as well as punishment for those that seem to have Electoral Act issues. And as much as I really want to get your reaction to this proposal, I'm a bit more concerned. Would this truly, if, I'm still saying no, if scale through or finally being signed into law, do you see this, all of this, returning the trust to the people back to the electoral process?
Well, thank you very much.
As much as I want your reaction to it.
Very well. You see, the fact remains that for any nation to thrive.
For any nation to thrive.
And particularly, we as a nation that is practicing democracy, our electoral process must be seen to reflect the wishes of the electorates. You know, since the advent of democracy in Nigeria from 1999 till date, you see us having these issues
of reforming.
Of reforms. And I keep wondering, is it that the reforms as proposed are not meeting the expected yearnings of Nigeria or the outcome, or those that are entrusted with implementing these reforms are refusing to do the needful? Now, I appreciate the bold step taken by our representative, because it's also my representatives.
Of course, most certainly.
Right Honorable Francis Wive, a very respectable and distinguished man of God. You see, this is not the first time that such reforms have been proposed. You will agree with me, if you can take back memory lane, the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, one-time Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Mohammed Weiss report.
Report.
If you look at that report, I don't think Nigerians need any further reforms, except with the issue of electronic transmission. And this electronic transmission that is proposing actually played out in this concluded elections. Because the Electoral Act of 2022, by way of implication, introduced it, even though there were some arguments that yes, it was not spread here good about the modality. That's why if you see the candidates of the PDP at the presidential election, Atiku, he raised an alarm when they said they should transmit electronically, and raised the issue of some persons trying to hijack or manipulate you know, Nigeria is a wonderful nation. Anything can happen. Even the devil is scared of Nigeria because we can even manipulate more than so.
I take that as a compliment rather. Well, please go ahead.
So the truth of the matter is that it is one thing to propose. It's another thing to implement. In fact, my major worry is our electoral umpire, which is the Independent National Electoral Commission, popularly called INEC. I was thinking that after the just concluded elections, INEC would come out based on complaints from various states in Nigeria with respect to the conduct of election, with the votes and budgets given to them. And the outcome was, in fact, almost 100% not profitable. Electorates who have decided to register, because he in the proposed amendments is talking about
10 years.
10 years
review of the registration process. We'll come to all of that.
Yeah, so those aspects I was expecting the Chairman House Committee on election, likewise that of the Senate, to invite INEC Chairman and his commissioners, invite observers, civil society organizations, to give a report
on the just concluded
election. It's very important because you can't vote money for somebody at the end of the day. Look at the way they were exercised. That's good. So they have that oversight function to invite INEC Chairman. That come. What actually transpired? Please explain to Nigerians what were the hiccups. What were your challenges? Is it that the funds allocated to you were not sufficient enough, or you see the issue of logistics and all that? So if at the time frame they give you at ATM, accreditation commences, some
even 12 polling units, 12 o'clock they were still.
So you can just imagine. So these were some of the areas I expected
before we look into any
reforms. We'll talk about the reforms, so that the lapses from INEC will actually help to give an elaborate or a robust reforms. So not just a reform, you don't come and say, okay, particularly thank God he came back. Assuming he did come back, I think these reforms would have manifested. But there are a lot of Nigerians are asking questions. When is the INEC going to get it right? Why is that every 4 years, which is our normal time frame for conducting elections, we will come up with reforms, suggestions, and all that. Reports given, they are dumped somewhere. Whether INEC decide to pay deaf ears to them, we don't know. But they have a duty to explain to Nigerians. Because look at, thank God the courts have concluded the judicial aspects. Because there's a lot of people say judiciary. The judiciary will not do anything more than interpreting the laws made by the same people making these electoral reforms. Because I think this just concluded election was an eye-opener for some who said that they were the ones who wrote the Electoral Act and at the end they were affected. So now another set is coming again with a reform. I pray this time that the same reforms they are proposing will not also affect
it. Should we be suspect of these reforms?
Because
the way you're talking about it, all I seem to understand is we should first ask the questions. Where did we get them wrong?
Exactly.
And before we now look at amending where we got it wrong.
Good. And the person to answer those questions first is INEC, who has been charged with the responsibility to conduct free, fair, credible elections.
Okay, well, anyway, let's conduct ourselves with what seems to be And when I mean what seems to be, let's look critically at that very proposal. I feel if we lay it bare on the table, one after the other, we might really have a headway into this discussion. Okay. Now, I want us to first look at the plan amendment. And that is, let's look at section 10 of the Principal Act by presiding a new subsection 3 that states that without any prejudice to provisions of this section and subsection 2, every 10 years, the Commission, which is INEC, shall carry out a re-registration of all eligible voters in preparation for the next general elections. Now, do you feel this re-registration is in order, and would it help to deal with the issue of cost? Because if you look at it, that was the reason why they said he would love for INEC to do to have a review. But my fear is, would this not affect the cost that is already too high? Many people feel it's too high for INEC. Because are we now going to be having this re-registration every 10 years, looking at the numbers, rather than follow the way we have, where if you're up to 18 years, where you're eligible to go and get your voter's card. But should we now be doing this every 10 years? Would this not add to the bearing cost we've already experienced in the conduct of our election or even in the electoral process in itself? I just want your reactions to that.
Okay,
every 10 years.
My reaction is very simple. Thank God you just quoted or read the principal provision to be amended.
Yes.
By introducing a new subsection.
Yes.
Now, the issue of re-registration every 10 years, in my own view, is very necessary. Why?
Okay.
You know, look at the death rate in Nigeria.
Okay.
A lot of the eligible voters who might have voted in this concluded last election
might not.
Some have passed on.
Yes, of course.
So there's already a vacuum.
Yes.
So if INEC do not carry out this exercise and they say maintain that register in 2027, you will find out the issue of ghost electorates.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So that review, I think, re-registration is very important, so that INEC keeps updating its database to know those living
and those dead
and those who are dead and those who are eligible, because as at next 10 years, someone who is at least 10 years, by next year will be 18 or even more than, and will be eligible. So if a man who is 18 years in the next 10 years is not actually on the voters register, his right to vote have been infringed upon. So this exercise,
but it still does have a process of going there before the general election to re-register or get himself captured in the INEC database. But because one a bit concerned, we're talking about cost. Initially, you talked about a huge cost being given, or huge fund being given to INEC, yes, to conduct the election, that many Nigerians were still asked and are still dissatisfied. That's why we're having an amendment to the Electoral Act. So let's look at it. Would this not be an unnecessary cost to the taxpayers getting this re-registration after every 10 years?
Well,
looking at the outcome of our elections.
Okay, very well. If you're talking about cost, what is the cost? A commission has been given a budget, approved budgets to spend for what? Is it just the election itself? Election is a process. And the process starts with all this we're saying about.
It's not just happening.
So not just about the main exercise. No. It's a process. You think Nigerians are foolish to just vote 250 billion naira for an exercise? That at the end of the day, look at the outcome of the exercise. When I say that this money, they know, is meant for the budget, the preparatory step to the election. Now, I was expecting that, what's his name? We have the director of voters registration or voters education in INEC. What I expect of him, or what is expected of him, is that as time goes on, there should be this enlightenment to the electorates. And we're going to do the registration for those who are not up to 18 years as at the time. Good. Come to the nearest, or go to the nearest INEC office in your local government. Okay.
Do you feel it, rather than being more like it should be periodic?
It should be periodic.
Okay.
It should be periodic, because why I believe the proposal of 10 years is let us with the issue of cost, as you're saying. But to me, the cost is not the issue because there's a budget for that. If the commission is ready to do the needful, they don't even need to disturb the federal government that we need extra money for this. No, the money is there. How you allocate it is the issue. But provided that the important thing is done. If the register is reviewed periodically with respect to those who might have passed on and the evidence to that
to state that.
Good. Then those who are not up to the eligible age to vote, paraventure within 4 or 5 years.
But would this not be too much for Nigerians? Come on. We seem to always be doing this. When it's NIN, we go. BVN, we go. Now we're not talking of re-registration for voters. Would this not be too much for Nigerians to bear? That you're now going back to INEC with all the whole hiccups, with all the whole issues of lining up, issues of you might even get late and they want to even extort money from you. Would that not be too much a process for Nigerians to bear?
Well, the issue of the task nature of Nigerians embarking on this exercise, in my own view, will not be too much. Because if you really want to get it right, except we still want to remain where we are. And if we are ready to remain where we are, then we shouldn't put a complaint. Now someone has made a proposal, which to me is not the first, it's not new. They are beyond a lot of reforms, like I said earlier on. Now, let it not be as if the honorable member has taken a step, and particularly we from his constituency have decided to not to give him the backup. So particularly we from this Ugali South, Ugali North, Udu, should even be more on ground. And yes, our representative is actually taking a bold step. I commend him for that. So if Nigerians really want to have a credible exercise in 2027, which the honorable member has foresaw, and is now making a practical move, it's expected of every Nigerian voter, except you are telling me you are not a Nigerian, or you are from another country. If you're actually a Nigerian citizen and a member or a constituent member of the constituents where the member is representing you, speaking on your voice, because this one of us cannot go to Abuja, is there.
And this might just be things we've heard from his constituents.
Exactly. So, and he has also felt some, because he has been in the field. So, he's not taking the bull by the horn to say, no, let us correct yes, where did we get it wrong? And how? So that's why I said that outside this proposal, the House of Reps or the Senate should also invite INEC. I was thinking that by now they should have done that. INEC, please explain to us and Nigerians the outcome of this 2023 general election, because there are a lot of outcries that you people feel below. If I suppose that this is the worst election ever in Nigeria, despite the innovations with regard to electronic transmission and beavers and all that. The taxpayers' money, like you rightly said, are be spent to ensure credibility
in the process.
But at the end of the day, what do you have? There's nothing to show. And now we are still coming back to a round table, which is a very good attempt. So we, the constituents or the electorates, we should take the bull by the horn, visit any of the INEC registration. I know a lot of them can be very, very conning, the officers or the staff, to say, you pay this. You don't pay to do those things. And even INEC as a commission have made that point clear. So I was expecting that if you go to INEC registration center and somebody is telling you to bring X amount of money, diligently get the name of such person. One, to ascertain whether he's even a staff or an ad hoc staff of the commission. And when you take that bold step, I think the message will be sent to all those involved in such an act, because it's satanic and scandalous to the commission. The commission says this, and you, the staff, you feel that you are bigger than the commission. Then you should be shown the way out, so that Nigerians and the electorate will not feel as if, oh, they've come again. There's no need for me to do this. Tomorrow, say BVL, like you said, go and do NIN. We don't know the one they'll bring again. All to ensure that we are well captured. But the stress on Nigerians that even after all this exercise,
and at the end
of the day, nothing shows for. So I know that yes, a lot of them will be, the task will be much, but we have to do the needful. Change, like they said, is a gradual process, not automatic. But if we don't take the bull by the horn, particularly now that the honorable member has kick-started the process, we as his foot soldiers, we should follow him, so that at the end of the day, he will know that he has taken a bold step.
Well, we'll follow the course of the program, and where we are going now is on a break. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion centered on electoral reforms and looking at the proposed amendment to the Electoral Act 2022, especially being proposed by our very own. We're talking of the one representing, the Honorable representing Ughelli North, Ughelli South, and Udu constituency in the House of Representatives, Honorable Francis Uwaive, when he proposed for 10 years re-registration of voters, and not just that, but electronic transmission of results, and not just that again, but a whole lot that he seems would need to change for us to finally get it right in our electoral reforms. Let's go on a break.